Okay, so broad range of expertise and services. Perhaps I can start with you, Mr. Japo. Just give us a sense of your presence in Zambia, and if I'm Mr. Businessman here and I'm venturing into Zambia, what kind of assistance can I look forward to?
First of all, thank you very much. It's good to be here. Let me start by saying that Liberty Life is one of the South African companies, so that is in the country, and we can speak to the issues that have been raised earlier with regard to an environment that is enabled by government, principle or policies that government has put in place for business. And so Liberty Life has been able to take advantage of what is obtaining to be able to be present and present our offerings in the country.
We will unpack a lot more of that, and there's various areas of expertise. So now, let me start with you and just literally go around and sort of health and life. So obviously I have employees, and these are some of the things that I need to be thinking about and cognizant of.
Sure. Well, I think it's fair to say that from a Liberty perspective, maybe to start with, is that we view Africa as our home. We've got a deepened relationship with Zambia. We view health as sort of our first business units that we sort of use to get into those countries. We should really promote the access of health care for the individuals and the employees at large. Our targeted market, it's really the sort of four areas: the multinationals, the large corporations, the SMME, and the affinity groups. I mean, we offer a Pan-African solution. We involve in about 22 countries at the moment, and we view Zambia as one of the key markets for us from a growth perspective. But also, I think importantly, we're compliant in the market that we operate in. I think it's also fair to say that we have Zambians running our office and creating employment.
Okay, Kenneth, let me come to you, Stanley partner, XCO Capital. So we've heard quite a bit about some of the sectors that are quite exciting in Zambia, agribusiness, food, agriculture. Tell us a little bit about your view on these sectors, both in the sort of medium, long term. What do you see?
We look at Zambia in a very favorable light. We don't have any investments in Zambia at the moment, although we want to make investments there now. So we look at food and agri-processing and agriculture as well. And why we like Zambia is firstly because of the resource availability. If you look at South Africa, we have 15% of our country is available for agriculture, and as they stated this morning, Zambia's got 58% of the country is available for agriculture. Of that, only 18% is currently really not exploited, but used. So the challenges actually for agriculture as such is really electricity and the cost of inputs such as fuel and fertilizer. So as long as we can really bridge those challenges and for exchange rate could improve as a result of maybe the copper price improving. But lots of water, 40% of sub-Sahara, maybe the southern region's water, although most of that's actually lying in the Tanganyika Lake, which is where you get most, which is probably the second biggest body of water in the world. When we look at other things, we look at the political stability. We also like the fact that there's a rapid rate of urbanization. About 40% of the population live in urban areas, and that's continuing to increase at 4% per annum. And urban population make use of food and actually has a double the requirement for food than people in rural areas would have. In addition to that, Zambia is a land-linked country. People like to refer to it as landlocked. but a friend of mine said it's land linked because it's got 8 countries, including Burundi. That's the 8th one, touching on Zambia. So we like the fact that it's integrated with the rest of the region, especially into DRC, Lubumbashi, Mujimai, and then we also like the fact that it's diversifying away from copper, and agribusiness is probably is going to be the sector that is going to benefit from that, and then finally, it's a good place to go and do business, easy to do business.
All right, and that's the theme that seems to be coming through quite a lot. Willem, as a compliance officer, what is it that we need to be cognizant of that you can assist with?
Each country's got their own legislation and so on, and as a compliance officer you need to see and ensure that the company itself comply with legislation and so on. In South Africa, for example, a lot of the legislation that is implemented in the insurance sector is to protect clients. So first of all, your companies that do business in the financial industry is very heavily regulated currently, from both prudential as well as a market conduct point of view.
So, in fact, let me turn to you, Brandon. Local knowledge. Everyone always it sort of encourages you, go into a new territory, make sure that there's local knowledge that you can extract there. Is that something you're able to do with your setup?
I think definitely it's something that we've seen, through Stanley. We're in 10 countries across the continent. Through the group, it's about 22 or so. So we've definitely seen that local knowledge is something you have to have. Without that, you don't understand the unique cultural aspects, the unique needs of your clients as well, which therefore doesn't allow you to build product that then meets those needs. So it's been a big drive for us. So one of the things that, similar to what was said, Umdu, is that what we want to make sure that our businesses are run by locals as well. We can't pretend that we can run a business in Zambia out of Joburg, etc. So from our point of view, when we've got people on the ground, it really helps us with that knowledge as well, feeding that back in terms of all sectors of our business, be that from the compliance side, from the product development side, from the servicing side, and also it also helps us a great deal in terms of the partnerships that we try to create in terms of partnering with the likes of regulators. We take, for example, what we did in Kenya, where we partnered with the local regulators and developed the REIT, or the Real Estate Investment Trust regulations. That is something that we feel that can only be had with local people on the ground as well. So for us, it's a massive advantage to having that, and we've seen that work in our favor relative to our competitors as well.
All right, Mr. Njapao, what can I keep putting this hat on as I'm going to step into this space, into this country, Zambia, and I'm leaving South Africa with certain expectations. I'm used to certain products, certain services, certain levels of assistance and help. And will I get the same experience there?
Yeah, precisely. Maybe let me put it this way. That is why we're here to talk about liberty being in Zambia. So that when you leave South Africa, and for many of the South Africans, maybe you are going with all certain expectations, you can get the same service. You can get the same expectations that when you are outside South Africa, a country like Liberty, which is a multinational company, will provide the same product offerings, will provide the same services of international standards, international level to you, to your employees, and to those that work for you. And so that's what we are doing in Zambia. I hasten to say that when you asked me what are you doing as Liberty, Liberty is providing the international standards, product offerings and services using the local people or local environment, so that when you are in South Africa or you are in any part of the world, you do not see the difference.
Okay, Willem, I'll come back to you with compliance. Just how much is it onerous? Is it a difficult environment to have to comply with? I mean, we're getting the story, good news story here by the minister saying, no, it's lovely, it's wonderful. Is that your experience?
It is quite tough currently with new legislation coming into play and so on, especially the Financial Advisors Act. What this act is regulating is the financial advisors selling insurance. And that goes back to what I said earlier on consumer protection. The act was implemented to professionalize the selling of insurance. So people that who policies are sold to nowadays can rest assured that people are not just fly-by-nights or people that cannot come right in other industries. The challenge there is the legislation places a lot of onus then on the insurance company to make sure that these people are accredited. So they've got to now study the law, study the products, all to do with customer protection.
All right, I'm going to come back to you, Mr. Nene. So I'm not a huge business. I'm not I'm not going in there as a big operation. Is there still kind of a service that you can provide me on the smaller end of the business scale?
Absolutely. I think, as I said, our first business at the moment, we've got two businesses in Zambia. It's the health business and the life business. We also provide services or cover to individuals. So you as an individual will also be covered by us.
What about my business, my small business?
Well, your small business, being the employees, are also covered. I think our relationship is largely at an employer level. And then I think it's also fair to say that with the levels of penetration in the insurance market is still very low. So I think there's a huge growth sort of opportunities to grow that market. And we're also seeing that it's quite, I think the Honorable Minister mentioned it's a young population, mobile. I think we're very excited to be part of that journey. But also I think it's also what we're bringing into the market from an expertise point of view, especially from the health point of view, and also uplifting the society so that we don't just become a fly-by-night sort of investors. We're deepening our roots from a CSI perspective, from a training perspective, and we've got people moving across the whole continent working for us. So I think,
So let me come back to you, Kenneth. So you're kind of painting this picture of the agribusiness, agricultural sector. And what is it that's, what's the word? Is it unique or special about the Zambian story that you see?
I did refer to it earlier that it's got the resources that we don't have.
Right.
Which is great soil. I've heard stories about how South Africa's got bad soil, and then Zimbabwe's got good soil, and Zambia's just next level when it comes to agriculture.
Do they make it easy for people to do agriculture in Zambia?
See, I just want to bring it back to what we do.
Yeah.
So we don't invest necessarily just directly into primary agriculture and farming. So we're more focused on food and agribusiness.
Right.
So those are the services that are ancillary to farming. So your seeds and your inputs, your herbicides, your pesticides, and then the processing afterwards. So we would be more interested in companies like Mr. Dlamini mentioned, the service providers to the mass marts of the world, or the macros. So rather than going to the big farms, the Wangwas of the world, or in Zambia and buying into those businesses, we would rather invest in companies that do export, floriculture, horticulture, companies that do import replacement specifically, cross-border trade into the rest of the region, and then also businesses that provide for the middle market segment, and low market segment from a food point of view.
Right.
First of all, let me say that the insurance history of the country was not so good in the past. This is because due to the reasons the minister alluded to earlier, the industry was initially nationalized. And so when the companies like us, Liberty, come on the market, we find an opportunity that is literally just waiting, okay? Literally waiting to be captured. And Liberty Life, like many other insurance companies in the country, we as Liberty are obviously partnering with our partner, Stanbic Bank, offering products like group life for employers, health for employers, employees. We are able to coming up now with certain concepts that are not very known in our country by introducing franchise arrangements, franchise partnerships, broker partnerships, and all these are helping to be able to create employment for the people in Zambia, and also to position ourselves as Liberty to be able to provide the services at the same standard like you would in any other part of the world. Because of what I said earlier, because the services were poor, because the insurance sector was nationalized, we as Liberty are now giving standards. For example, like we would like to pay a claim if it's a funeral claim, we would like to pay that claim within 2 hours. Okay, if you come to us and take our policy, and you have a claim, a funeral claim, we're gonna pay that claim within 2 hours. If it's a group life claim, you take a claim for your employees, and one of your employees dies or is critically disabled, we will pay that claim within 2 days, 48 hours. So on the health side, we've partnered with very good, or let me say high and low level hospitals all over the country. So when you take our policy, when one of your employees takes our policy, you should be able to access service in any hospital in the country. And we should be able to provide evacuation as well in the event that the local hospital is unable to provide a certain level of service. So Liberty, as Liberty, we are very poised. The environment is wonderful for us. We have gone beyond that. Because the level of penetration of the insurance product is also very low, it presents an opportunity, like I said earlier, that we can insure so many people. So in the retail sector, for example, we've partnered with those who come from Zambia will know Unitato Funeral Home, to be able to provide insurance for employers or people who want to have a service from that organization. And because they are countrywide, they are supported all over the country, we automatically, by partnering with them as Liberty, are already having an indirect presence. Besides the actual relationship we have with the bank. And because the bank is also well spread in the country, we would like to ride and leverage that relationship with the bank. So yes, Liberty is there to stay, and yes, we can speak to the issues of an enabled environment that is helping us as Liberty to settle down. Within the first 1 year that we have been doing business, we can safely say that we are poised to do better.
I think it's a good way of closing. I think, as we said, part of us having the ability to pay claims, it's also that from a provider perspective, we're actually developing the providers in those countries and actually also paying them above the average. I think the reason that we do that is actually to create that equal warriors that you talk about.
Yeah, we see Zambia as a shining light in the sub-Sahara area for investment purposes, and we'll be investing, not infesting.
Liberty's success speaks for itself, and Liberty's been around for a while now. So in Zambia, Zambians can actually build on the success of Liberty and learn from Liberty as a company itself. As my colleague said here, for building wealth, employment, business partnerships, and so on.
Liberty Life Zambia is looking to explore the economic situation that is in the country. Liberty Life Zambia does recognize that there are challenges in Zambia, in the insurance sector and maybe financial sector as a whole, which includes poor education among the consumers of financial products. And we will be seeking to bring along through our CSI consumer education to the public in order to promote understanding of financial services and thereby obtain higher uptake of insurance services. And so Liberty Life is looking forward to playing its part and its contribution in Zambia.
I think, the way that I say stand up, but I'd actually put the whole group in, I think the way that we look at it is obviously we're in business for our stakeholders. The stakeholders goes from our clients right through to our employees. And if we don't make all of them happy, there's no ways we're going to succeed. And so I think that's where we take it from, is that's our mindset. If I look at what we've done as stand-up specifically, we've taken the learnings from other areas. Again, the REITs example, that real estate is an example, where we again we try to sit down with the local regulators and help them develop the regulations. And you might think, well, is that then just for our benefit? No, it's not, because what it does is it opens up the markets and brings new products to the markets that allows the end investor or the member of a pension fund diversification in terms of their investments as well, and brings them something different to the market. As I said, we try to partner as much as we can with the regulators, and our whole ethos of investing also centers around ESG. So making sure that when we buy a stock, and we can speak to some of my other colleagues, Jay Nash, etc., in the room, when we buy a stock, that is one of the main pillars that we look at. So we look at 4 pillars, one of them being management, yes, one being valuation, one being risk, and also ESG is a big one for us as well. So we need to make sure that when we make an investment into a company, that company is doing good for that country as well. So it's not just purely about returns.
Well, gentlemen, and that's where we'll leave it. Thank you very much indeed. Duduzi Nene, Kenneth Sinclair, Willem Kruger, Michael Njapo, and Brandon Alexander. Thank you very much indeed, gentlemen.